Hello, everyone. I will just make sure that my microphone, can you guys hear me really well? Okay, good. And is the sound super clear? Yes, Mr. Dot is in the house, indeed. So I'm basically in the same boat as you guys. I have zero idea what I'm talking about tonight. There's a little bit of an echo. Oh, it's choppy. Ugh. If it's choppy, please let me know because I'd rather reboot it. It's not choppy. Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, that's good news. So we hit 70K on YouTube today. So yay for us. And I just wanted to do an impromptu, not only to celebrate, but because I got a very clear vision that from the guides, and they showed me this banner, and it said, "The universe wants what you want." So all they gave me was the title. I have no clue what this is going to be about. I never prepare anything, by the way. It's just that I didn't even know that I'd be going on YouTube tonight at all. Like sometimes I kind of I have a little bit of a hit. Okay, we're going on YouTube tonight. But we hit 70K. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please do so. I would love for you to subscribe, help me get that algorithm up. And I'm going to actually start today with a story that happened this week, or I believe it was last week. But let's just give it a couple more minutes for more people to join in. And by the way, if I don't say thank you for your donations, just know that I'm extremely appreciative. So Wholeness Spoken and Stephanie, thank you so much. And Dana, I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to be sending you a beam of angelic light when I see them. But if I'm on a roll, I'm going to keep going, okay? But I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for your support. Donation-based work is my favorite work, hands down. Hands down. Because it's very much in keeping with what I envision for New Earth and supporting of your own volition. And it's never really about the amount of money. It is from one perspective, but it isn't really. It just depends on, obviously if someone, I get donations of like $200 or $100 all the time, I'm very appreciative, but it's never really about the money. It's more about the intention behind it and the thoughtfulness. I've received $1 from people before, and there was so much love in that dollar. It's not about the money. It's really about the love that's felt when I receive donations. And I always make it a point to get back to you guys personally through my email, just to show my appreciation. So thank you for being on this journey with me. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to get started. And it's really hard for me not to thank every donation coming in right now, but I'm just going to trust that you feel me, okay? All right. So I was with a friend last week that I hadn't seen in a number of years. And I remember this person to be very, very chivalrous, not so much in a romantic way, but just very much of a gentleman and very kind and very gentle and very in touch with his divine feminine. And when I saw him last week, there was definitely a dramatic shift in his energy. He was still very nice, but the things that were coming out of his mouth, no judgment, by the way, everything I do is judgment free. Someone asked me today, how can you differentiate between if it's your ego wrongfully reading the energy or if it's your spirit precisely reading the energy? And I said that you can always know that you're reading someone's energy objectively when you don't have judgment in you. You can always know, because there's a difference between judging someone, which is a projection of your own pain, and observing someone. Like if I was to sit with you right now and just stare at you, and I'm observing you neutrally, you might feel judged, but remember, your observational technology is consciousness. Consciousness is light. And so when that light is illuminated upon you, then it might catalyze certain judgments that you hold about yourself. But I've always been of the belief that if you observe someone neutrally, then information is able to stream in. And it's a practice like any art form. You don't become a fighter by being impulsive or by acting on your anger if someone punches you in the face. You become a great fighter by really learning how to dance with your soul and perfecting your craft every day, being very in tune with the energy field in that boxing ring. And you're able to observe the dynamic and then make choices appropriately. So reading energy is like anything. It's like cooking a good meal. It's like playing an instrument thoroughly or with much skill. And it takes a really long time to objectively read energy. The way that I was able to do it properly was I was always very psychic, but the thing is, my feathers would get ruffled when people would bully me. And so even though I was picking up on the energy that they had around them, which was like a dark fog that wasn't kind, and I was able to open up that doorway to kind of see what was really going on with them, I was always flustered. So it didn't allow me to fully tune into the details of the download I was receiving because I was rattled. You know what I mean? So whenever you're rattled, whenever someone gets under your skin, most of the time you're judging that experience. And if you're judging that experience, there's going to be, I want to say it's going to be half-half. Like half of it is going to be on the nose, and then the other half is going to be a projection on your part because that person gave rise to something within you that was untransmuted or unintegrated or unresolved. And so you're going to be displacing your perception of them onto them, which isn't necessarily accurate. You know it's accurate when you're in that neutral zone. It's a judgment-free zone, and you're just able to read them like you're reading a book. It's very matter-of-factly. Anyways, so I saw my friend, and he was talking in a way, and I'm not going to say names, obviously, but he was talking in a way that was not very gentle. He was very much objectifying the people he had been seeing or people he had been encountering in his life. And he would say things like, you know, pull your pants down. I want to see your butt cheeks, or, you know, in a very aggressive, dominant way. And he was telling me these stories. And I feel like, first and foremost, when people feel a need to divulge in a very visual way what they're doing sexually, it stems from a place within them that may not be fully aligned. Now, I have friends that are complete sluts, but they own it and they're free and they're happy. And so for them, operating that way may be in alignment, right? But every case is going to vary in life. Because, for instance, if I decide that I don't want to wear the color yellow, it doesn't mean that I'm judging the color yellow. It may just mean that it's not in alignment with my character. So a lot of the things that this guy was saying was uncharacteristic of who I know him to be. But I listened without judgment, and I was just kind of, you know, observing it all. And we had a wonderful evening. We had dinner together. And the next morning, and you can always tell that other people's guides are in your room when they hound you and they won't leave you alone. They're like literally tapping on your shoulder. They're trying to shake you. to get a message delivered to the other person. Now, I'm someone who can enter a now moment, and my next now moment has nothing to do with my previous now moment. I don't operate within the construct of time. I operate outside of time. So for me, the way that I conduct my life is I don't chain now moments to create a story. I live as a dot. I'm Mr. Dot. So let's say that I am having a good time over coffee with someone. I don't leave and obsess about the time we had together. Or I don't think to myself, I wonder if we'll see each other again. It's just, it was a wonderful now moment that I got to embrace and treasure, but I don't string now moments to create continuity. I'm just not wired that way. I feel like most of your power lies in being what I call a blank page or being a dot. To me, the blank page is a really cool visual as well, because if you walk around like a blank page and nothing can be written on you on the page that you are, then that makes you really powerful. Yesterday, I went for a walk and I was working with the Andromedans and the Arcturians. And I sent myself to that dimension because I can teleport, just to be very honest with you. And yes, I own that I'm an alien in physical form, in a human disguise, but I have a lot of abilities through my pineal gland that I've developed over the years. So I've been fostering my abilities every day since 2011. And I believe that it's not about perfection, it's about consistency. And when you show up consistently with your craft, the byproduct of that is that you unlock what they call in India cities, or supernatural abilities, which to me are not supernatural, they're supernatural. They're inherent to who we are. And we are 12th dimensional beings, and we've gotten dislocated from that 12D DNA. And so now we're making our return to that by doing things that are divine rather than less than divine. And that's my new thing. Everything I do is divine. And if I feel like it's less than divine, I don't do it. And that ties in perfectly with my story. The things that were coming out of his mouth were like very sexual and very, I don't like to use the word perverted, but I can't think of another word to use right now. But it was very like in your face. And when I woke up that next morning, his guides visited me in my room telepathically. And at that point, I wasn't attached to the night before. I was ready to get my day going, right? Jump out of bed, make my coffee, have an amazing day. But his guides wouldn't leave me alone. And so I said, you guys can take that up with him, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, he's not hearing us. We need you to relay the message. Now, bear in mind, I do this for a living. I don't go around and unwarrantedly give people readings. I'd be imbalanced if I stopped every person on the street and said, hey, I'm getting a message for you. But is it true that every person I walk by, I receive like a flash image? Yes, I receive information all the time. I call myself the cosmic lint roller because I'm like a lint roller for your clothes. And I don't do it on purpose. It's just that my pineal gland was shown to me as being this crystal in the brain that I've activated so much that it's become like this magnet, or a very powerfully magnetic crystal. And then all of these energies and thought forms get magnetized to me all the time. And evidently, if you make contact with someone, or if you walk by someone, they have a sphere of light around them, which is their auric field. And I have my auric field around me. And so those energies start to intermingle and I receive. But I've been receiving information like that since before my Kundalini awakening. It's just that at the time, I didn't know that I was super psychic. I thought that I was crazy. I was just super psychic. So we all have an etheric antenna that can dial into different radio stations. But when your pineal gland becomes connected, intricately connected and hooked up to the 12 dimensions and the subdimensions, then you're like a walking lint roller and you receive all of this information all the time. And people have asked me, do you ever get overwhelmed? No, it's just, I feel like it's who I am. I'm just wired this way. It's as natural to me as walking around or moving my fingers. And the light body works that way. The light body is, think of it as it starts as your intuition. Your intuition is like the plugin. You know how when you download software or when you have a website, you have plugins that you can download. Your intuition is a plugin to your light body. And your light body is this ginormous sphere of intelligence. And what it wants to do is it wants to run your show for you. And it's benevolent. So there's nothing malicious or ill-intended about your light body. Kind of like your body, you don't think about moving your hands. Your light body wants you to be like that when it comes to your spirituality. It wants you to be so clicked into that space of your intuitiveness and your knowingness that you never question yourself anymore. But the thing is, it and your guides and your angels, they need you to meet them halfway, meaning that when you receive a whisper in your ears, right, you really need to follow their directions because they're always providing you with an instruction manual. And I call them my lily pads, like a frog steps on a lily pad and then another lily pad approaches and then the frog steps on the next lily pad. And if you really start taking heed of what your guides are cluing you into, then you're going to start to elevate your consciousness into those subtle realms or into those higher dimensions. And then you'll be able to interface with other beings, with other extra dimensional beings, with aliens, with angelic beings. And you'll get so proficient when it comes to the functionality of your pineal gland that you'll be able to kind of press it like a button and you can teleport out of your body and your consciousness can mostly be occupying a different dimensional field. And within those dimensional fields, there are other beings who have different abilities. Like for myself, I come from a star system where we levitate and where we move objects with our mind and where we birth universes with our third eye and where we're able to open up wormholes in the Milky Way. So I come from that star system. And there are many star systems that have those abilities, many different beings that have those abilities. But I'm one of those people where that's like my breath. So if I hang out with you all day, I'll be like, but I need to go breathe. My breath is being able to send myself into these other dimensions, to transport myself, to teleport myself, and work with those abilities. You like stabilize grids. You equalize energy fields. You're able to levitate yourself into other dimensions. Like last night, I was with the Andromedans on my walk, mostly, the Arcturians a little bit, but the Andromedans were saying to me that humans all have these abilities. We all have these abilities. It's just that we're very unplugged from our divinity. So going back to the story, his guides were hounding me, like screaming in my ear, like, you need to get in touch with him. And granted, this is a person that I've seen once in the last like 4 years or 3 years. Like, I feel like it's very uncalled, right? Or unwarranted to be like, hey, I have messages for you. So I tried to shake the guides off, kind of like when you dust yourself off. And I said, leave me alone. And they said, no, 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 we're not going to leave you alone. And that's when you can tell there's a presence in the room, when they don't leave you alone. And then at that point, you have to kind of get in touch with that objectivity, with that neutrality, and ask yourself, is this really the guides? Or is this maybe something that I observed that didn't sit well with me because it reminded me of someone else that I used to know, or maybe it was misaligned. I'm just giving you guys examples. He didn't really remind me of anyone I know. But the truth is, I was clear. All right. I was in the clear, zero, zero, zero opinion about anything. But, you know, throughout the night, I could tell that the stuff that was coming out of him or the energy that was coming off of him wasn't really congruent with him and his true character, right? Like some people smoke cigars and you could tell like they're meant to smoke cigars. Does that make sense? Like it's aligned. Some people smoke cigars and you're like, nah, that doesn't fit you. It's not a judgment. What it is that you're peering into their energy field and into their guides and into their higher self. And the higher self is up there like shaking its head like, nah, bro, like that's not working for you. So for me, there was a time, believe it or not, a year and a half ago where I was vaping and my friends were like, you're an athlete. That doesn't suit you. And they were right. But I did it for like 4 or 5 months or 6 months. The flavor was Fruit Loops. It was so good. But I did it for 4 or 5, 6 months. And my friends were right. Like it didn't fit my character. All right. So anyways, to proceed with the story, I sent him a message because he's very spiritual. And I said, hey, do I have your permission to share a few downloads I received or a few messages that I received from your guides this morning? And he said, yes, of course, please do. So he gave me the green light. And then I went into the reading and I started sending him like audio files. And I told him that the vision that his guides gave me was that him talking to these people that way was so out of alignment that it creates like a tattoo on those people. It's like a stamp or a brand or a tattoo. A tattoo is a really good metaphor because he was telling me a story where he told someone who's very close to him, like, take your clothes off, let me see you now. And he was very dominant. And I said that how that made that person feel is every time they think about you now, they're not going to be able to shake off that image of you because now it's out measuring your essence. And I shared tons of downloads and he was like in complete agreement with me. He's like, whoa, you're 100% right. And then I went into another download and I said, you know, you're 54 now or 53 and you've been wanting to be in a relationship for a long time. But what I got from your guides is that they think that you treating people this way in a very sexual and aggressive way is coming from an underlying frustration that you have, that you're still single. And so every time you act upon that frustration of still being single, and this is something in your unconscious mind, you're not aware of it, but every time you act upon that frustration that you're still single, then what you're doing is you're feeding into the possibility that you will remain single because you're infecting people with that energy of frustration without even knowing it. And that was like a big aha moment for him, huge aha moment for him. And so he got in touch with me the next day. He's like, yo, I made amends with this person. I'm really happy that you called me out on it. I don't want people to think of me that way. Thank you for keeping me in check. And he was able to reverse the damage or to untangle that knot, which was really, really good. So this leads me to my next point. And I'm just kind of flowing right now. I have no clue what we're doing, but it feels good. The universe wants what you want. The universe wants that guy that I know to be in a relationship. The universe wants him to have that. But you have to understand that there are always multiple timelines that are percolating in your field. Multiple timelines. And I have found with my personal journey that there are usually like 3 dominant timelines because as you know, you're an infinite being. So from the quantum viewpoint, there are thousands upon thousands of timelines that are brewing in your field of possibility. But I have found that there are usually 3 that are prominent. Okay. So is there a timeline in my field of possibility, or in my field of resonance, where I become a crackhead? Yeah, but it's a slim to none possibility that that will happen, because it's not in the cards for me to become a crackhead. But in the grand scheme of things, that possibility is always there. It's just that it's not pulsing, because I'm not, I want to say that I'm not aligned with that possibility. Does that make sense? Okay. So typically there will be like 3, maybe 4 dominant timelines happening in your life. So if you're in a twin flame dynamic, there will be a potential where you end up with your twin flame, another potential where you don't end up with your twin flame, another potential where you're like, I'm done with twin flames, I'm done with labels, and another potential where you're like, you know what? My twin flame was a blessing to me, and I'm so grateful, because I don't care if I end up with them or not, because this has been such a reflective journey of coming into more expansion within myself. So there will always be like 3, 4 timeline potentials. So the universe wants this person to be in a relationship. But the thing is, if they keep feeding the dark wolf, which is really just feeding the frustration, then they're going to keep energizing or giving energetic food to that probability. And then if they end up single the rest of their life, they may not understand why that is, which is why so many of us in this reality play the victim all the time. Because we're like, I don't understand why I'm not making money. I don't understand why this. The reason why you don't understand it, or you can't wrap your head around it, is because you have so many blind spots, and you're not able to see how you're preventing your own abundance, how you're preventing these timelines from actually coming to fruition. That's why. So we have to become aware of our blind spots. We have to become aware of our blind spots. So this person had a blind spot. I took my giant flashlight. I shined a light on it. Now they're aware of it. And now they're going to start getting back on path with what they truly want. And I said to him, I know what you want is love. I told him, I said, can you admittedly say to me that you want love? He's like, of course I want love. I said, then start making choices that will transport you to the timeline where you're now in love. Because from the quantum viewpoint, there's already a timeline playing out where he's already in a relationship with someone that he genuinely loves. But the thing is, he won't get to that floor in the building if he keeps making choices that drop him off at floor 4, when that timeline is dwelling at floor 7. So this is how you have to start to perceive your life. You have to start perceiving your life as being responsive to every single choice that you make through your free will. Through your free will. Because the guides always say to me, Phil, it's just about choice. This entire reality is premised on choice. So every other story that you come up with is really just your ego building a sandcastle, or building this thread of continuity, which is really just grabbing one story, grabbing another story, and then creating a thread or a string or a chain to make yourself believe that that's actually what happened. Are you guys following me? Okay, so your mind, your monkey mind, your egotistical mental body is going to grab and capture one experience. It may be that you're talking with a friend and they say something to you that's really off-putting to you, that really irritates you. And then you grab that, just like a toy crane. You remember those toy cranes that go in to get the stuffed animal? You grab that, whoop, and you're like, ooh, now I'm going to go call my friend Sabrina and tell her about what just happened. And then you call your friend Sabrina, you tell her about what happened, and then Sabrina reacts in a certain way. She goes to tell someone, right? And then you feel a certain way, and then you call your mom that night and you're like, so this is what happened today. Someone said something to me that left a sour taste in my mouth. Then I called Sabrina, and now you end up calling your mom. So you're creating this illusion. It's like a false fabrication of a reality that's really just based upon your perception. But really, what you have to work on doing is altering your perception. You have to decide, okay, within the dynamic with Sabrina, there were so many other options at my disposal. Why did I choose to talk about that? Why? We could have talked about a million gazillion things. And then with this other person who said something that irked you, you could have confronted it in the moment, in the spur of the moment. And you could have said, no, that's off-putting to me. What's up? And then the entire timeline would have switched for you. The entire timeline. So I'm here today to tell you, or this evening to tell you, your guides, your angels, they want you to be abundant. They want you to be fruitful in life. They want you to be bountiful. They want you to be prosperous in love, in health, in wealth. They want all of that for you. But you have to understand that if you are making choices that are less than divine, when you tell someone, show me your butt, blah, 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 that's not divine. That's not you being the example or the exemplification of divinity. All right? This is something else that came to me right now that's really profound. You're going to want to take a note because this is notable. Divinity to me, oh, this is so good. Oh my God. Oh my God. I get why the guides didn't tell me what was in store for us tonight, because I could not have explained this if it was prepared. Okay, get ready. I'm gonna speak out loud. So this is how I process. Divinity to me, source, creator, God, source. It wants to express in its fullness, in its totality, through us. Okay? So when you're being funny and crazy, that's source expressing itself in its totality, in its fullness. So it's robust. It's like a flavorful experience. The thing is, though, less than divine would be divinity trying to express itself fully. But because you're still fragmented, because you're still keeping yourself from that highest timeline and you're making poor choices, that's not divine, because divinity would want to express fully through you. So if you're condescending to people, is that divine or less than divine? It's less than divine, because you being condescending originates from your own anger and from your own insecurities and from you trying to control the situation. So you're already fragmented and compromised. So divinity isn't able to fully express through you. So my new thing is divine or less than divine. Or did you guys follow that? Divinity wants to express itself through you. It wants to channel through you in its full expression. That's the goal. So another way to say this is divinity wants to actualize itself through you. Through you. So you're like the seed, and you start to sprout through the energy of source. And the end game, if you will, even though there is no end game, the end game is to reach a certain light quotient where divinity starts to express itself more freely through you. So a very personal share, I know what I'm capable of in terms of my potential when it comes to speaking to people and audiences. I don't think I'm there yet. Okay, you guys might think I'm there, but I'm very much of a student of life and of the universe. So my number one priority in life is to keep committed to this path and to keep streamlining myself and to keep accentuating my abilities from various different angles, not only how I speak, but also how I download information, how I interpret the information, how I'm able to relay these messages from these other beings. So I've seen my potential. It was shown to me back in 2011. So every day I wake up and I say to myself, I'm dedicated to this path. Slowly but steadily, I will get there. There's a saying that goes, slow but steady wins the race. So I'm all about consistency. And I said that earlier. consistency to me is the key to becoming really, really good at what you do. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. So even though I haven't measured up to that potential yet, that's what fuels me every day, is to be able to work in concert with my guides, with my higher self, to keep traveling to these other star systems, to keep developing my true abilities within this physical form. Because I'm telling you, the teleportation I do, projecting my consciousness into other star systems, that's easier to me than being human. Easier, way easier. That's like second nature to me. It's my element. I'm like this avatar or the last airbender. So every day I want to keep anchoring in those higher energies, those celestial energies, those extraterrestrial energies that are me, but in this body, so that I can show up as my best version of myself for you guys. So you have divine, and then you have less than divine. Source wants to actualize itself through you. Through you. Thank you so much for the donations, by the way. Wafa, I see you. So when you make choices that are less than divine, I'm going to draw another example now. If you are, I did a client recently with a session with a client recently where this woman was sneakily talking with a man who was married. And she was coming up with all these explanations to justify how and why they're talking, that they're twin flames. And she was like, and I've even talked to his wife. And I was like, yeah, but does she know the extent of the situation? She's like, no. I'm like, there it is. Because divinity to me is being multidimensional. It's about no longer hiding things from people. It's about having integrity. It's about upholding the highest frequency. And so for her, she probably had a few timeline possibilities, which was that, number one, she says, you're married. I cannot speak with you. I'm not going to interfere. This is not my circus, not my monkeys. But if ever you leave your wife, if you're that unhappy, feel free to call me, but I'm not getting involved. That would have been one choice that would have connected her to a higher timeline. And then there are other timelines where you're like, hey, you're married. There's nothing left to talk about. I'm out. But because she made the choice of continuing to communicate with this man she said, but nothing happened. I said, yeah, but mentally we both know that you guys are fantasizing about each other and blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, I can't deny that. I'm like, well, that's less than divine, because divinity is multidimensionality. Multidimensionality is inclusivity. When you don't include other people, like the wife, or you're being sneaky, that's less than divine. Less than divine. So whenever you navigate your life, just ask yourself, is what I'm doing divine or less than divine? Because I'm telling you guys, and I'm going to reiterate this, and I love the title, The Universe Wants What You Want. The universe wants what you want, but it all is going to boil down to your choices. All of it. Okay? All of it. If you want to be financially well off or very comfortable, and you walk by a homeless person and you hear a little whisper in your ear, say, give him $5, don't hesitate. Just give him $5. You've got to get to a place where you're not filtering the information anymore. Because anytime you have to think about something, that's your less than divine self trying to get in the way between you and your divine self to disable you from becoming the greatest manifester. So eventually you'll get to a place where you're not thinking anymore. You're like that blank page. You're like this empty canvas. You're like this dot, and you don't prepare anything. You just whip up things out of thin air, and you're like, here it is. But there's no thought involved. You're like this clear instrument. You're like this clear crystalline conduit, and you're bringing through the highest dimensional energies that work really fast. They inspire you into action, and you don't question that action. You just make it happen. And when you do that, you're putting yourself in that elevator, right? Going back to the vibrational building, you're putting yourself in that elevator. And rather than stopping yourself at floor 4, you're continuing up all the way to floor 7, and you open up into the highest possibility. All of these possibilities already exist. They already dwell within your now moment. And all they're wanting you to do is entrain to them, meaning keep feeding the highest frequencies. You'll notice that whenever you are in a circle of people who like to gossip, right? The chatty Cathys, oh, you won't believe what she did to me. You won't believe what he did to me. They like to play the victim a lot. Because you're involving or engaging with those people, you're now hooking up to that stream of consciousness of all the woe is me people and all the pity parties. And now you're going to receive telepathic communication from that vibrational range of consciousness. If you learn how to lift yourself and uplift yourself into these higher frequency bandwidths outside of time, guess who you're hooked up to now? You're hooked up to extra dimensional beings that are like your alien family or like your angelic family. And now they're able to share with you all of these different modalities and all of these different methods and all of these different techniques that you can implement to become this alien in a human form. Does that make sense? So the goal is to transcend the collective human mind, because most humans, they're dwelling within a certain vibrational range. There aren't that many humans that take it upon themselves to meditate every day and to refine themselves and to fine-tune their etheric antenna and its abilities. So if you're able to set yourself apart from that crowd or from that herd, and you start working in cooperation with these higher dimensional frequencies by meditating every day, it's all about consistency, then you're going to start to levitate or transcend the construct of time, and you're going to land on the space of no time, and then you're going to be able to select the different beings you want to work with. And now your abilities start to come online. Humans are exceptionally wired in an energetic way. We have every single star race within our DNA, every single star race. So it's not out of your reach to be able to start integrating these higher modalities while you're in human form. That's why you're here. So, okay. So one more message for you. This is going back to the linear mind. It really, really, really wants to go and clamp. It really wants to go in and, like a toy crane, grab stories or grab things that have happened in your day just because it's bored. But the thing is, those lower vibrational mindsets, think of a jealous person, right? Does a jealous person like when you succeed? No. Okay, so if you're looking for a topic to discuss with a friend just because you're bored, would that lower vibrational energy want to see you succeed? No, that's why it's making you go grab that very story. So one thing I've been extra cognizant of lately is, do I really need to call this friend right now? Right? Like a lot of us have this default factory setting right now where it's like, there's nothing to talk about, so I think I'll just call my friend because I'm used to calling them and talk about quarantine. All right? If something is that autopilot for you, you need to start questioning it. Because there's usually an underlying energy, just like with my friend, that wants to preclude that true love from coming in. Just like with that woman who was speaking with this man who was being unfaithful to his wife, emotionally unfaithful, the universe wants her to find a man who is together and who will love her. But that choice is going to prevent her from meeting that man because she's linking herself to that consciousness, which is a collective consciousness of all the other people who are speaking to unfaithful men or women. And guess what's going to excite them? What's going to excite them are these lower vibrational energies or entities that want to stop them or block them from coming into their full potential. So you have to be very mindful of what it is you decide to play with. A lot of people like to play with fire and they get burned. A lot of people like to control men or women, and they end up single the rest of their lives. That's because they're not choosing the highest version. The universe wants what you want. There's one more message I have for you. When I was walking with the Andromedans yesterday, they kept saying to me, so when I'm walking with them, I'm in Andromeda, but I'm actually watching myself walk at the same time. And I'm kind of cementing these different energies in my body. It's really interesting. It's kind of like drilling these energies into my body. It's like, you know, when you make a pizza, right? And you have your roller pan and you have all these ingredients. It's like you're putting the pepperoni and you're putting all these mushrooms in it. But there are techniques to do it. You have to learn how to work with energy, and you have to learn how to be outside of time while depositing these energies by being in your body simultaneously. It's really interesting. Anyways, so what they were saying to me yesterday was, Phil, we want you to walk around like you are zero, like your superhero name is Zero, meaning you are nothing, meaning you are just a student who knows nothing, who knows nothing. And they were connecting me to that space of surrender. When you surrender, when you have nothing left, when you have no more fight in you, when you throw the towel in and you say, universe, I'm done, I'm checking out, you start to feel blank again. I call it the emptiness. You feel empty, but it's not in a bad way. It's in a good way. So they were saying to me, we want you to walk around every day, unless you're, you know, working with your abilities, and that's when you can really amplify and magnify that energy and wield it. But other than that, we want you to walk around like you're a blank canvas, like you're empty, like you're nothing, like your name is Zero. And I said, why? They said, because Phil, every time you're not zero, meaning you're in the positive or in the negative, the universe is going to jolt you out of that negative or positive to get you back to zero. So by being in the zero, or by having the name Zero, you're not going to invite unnecessary contrast in your life. Think of all these people that you entangle yourself with and all these stories that you start to fabricate. That's not zero. That might be +6, -7. It doesn't matter. I'm just using this as a metaphor. So if you're in +6, and don't think of plus as a positive, just think of it as like you've created all these stories. You have 6 stories, +6. Well, what the universe is going to do is it's going to take out a baseball bat and metaphorically hit you in the face so that you can fall on the ground, humble yourself, surrender, relinquish your control, and start again. So what they were saying to me was, if you operate as zero, as this blank canvas, as the dot that you are, then you're not going to be inviting things that are not meant to be in your life. They're going to slip off of you like water off a duck's back. Okay, like water off a duck's back. It's just going to slip off of you. It won't even be a vibrational match to you, so it probably won't arrive in the first place. So anytime you find yourself trying to grab, go back to the visual of the toy crane, that's going to help you. You know what I'm talking about, the game where there's a toy crane and it grabs the stuffed animal. Every time you look for a reason to unbore yourself, to call a friend, to find amusement in your day, go within and inquire and say, guides, do I really need to do this right now? Or ask your higher self, do I really need to do this right now? No, I'm just looking for another way out of my boredom. Yeah? So all you're going to do if you operate from that place is you're going to keep sending yourself into the positives, meaning adding and accumulating all these different narratives, and the universe will eventually swoop in, you know, make you trip, and then you're going to be on the ground, and you're going to have to surrender anyways. So wouldn't you rather integrate higher energies? So you become a great creator when you integrate higher energies that are outside of this planet. They're off-planetary. Create, integrate, okay? And stop with the replicate. Stop replicating your old patterns. Stop replicating all these old patterns, because we have a tendency to replicate. We don't create, we replicate. We triplicate, we duplicate, we quadruplicate. Think of everything you do every day. You probably did it yesterday, and you're doing it again to a lesser degree. What I'm asking you to do is be willing to, there's a saying that goes, throw caution to the wind. Take a risk, jump, and be willing to see what happens when you starve some of that patterning. When you decide, I'm no longer going to engage in my old patterns, I'm going to take a risk for once in my life, and today I will not call that friend by default. And that way you're going to start to unattach yourself or untangle yourself from that cobweb of that lower vibrational energy. It's not lower, but you have to understand how patterns work. Patterns are thoughts, beliefs that you give a lot of energy to, and they get reinforced over time, and they get solidified within your field. So it ends up looking like a street, and now you have another pattern. It looks like another road, and all you do every day is you keep traveling through the same roads. That's all you do. They're not bad. It's just that when something is out of date, meaning you're not growing through those patterns anymore, you need to give birth to a new pattern. How do you do that? By choosing something other than this pattern or that pattern, you're automatically creating a new pattern. It's like a pathway that leads to a new, never discovered world. So that's what you need to work on now. Ask yourself, why am I wanting to call my friend? Okay, why am I not trusting that the universe wants what I want? You'll never know unless you throw caution to the wind. You'll never know unless you donate that $5 to that homeless person. You'll never know because you'll stay stuck in that same box of conformity, traveling through the same roads, and you'll never discover new terrain. This is about discovering new terrain and birthing into new universes and opening up into that 7th floor of your building to see what awaits you. Everything else is too predictable. Everything else is something that you can expect. It's boring. So start stepping out of your box of comfort, out of your box of conformity, out of your old patterns, and try something new. Because I promise you guys, the universe wants what you want. It just needs you to meet it halfway. If you're not willing to meet the halfway, you're not going to be integrating those energies into your body. If I was imagining myself in Andromeda, that wouldn't be enough. I actually have to go on my walk, work with my body to cement the energies in my bones, to cement the energies in my feet, to cement the energies in my pineal gland, everywhere in my body. It wouldn't be enough to just envision myself in Andromeda. You actually have to work through action, through your physical body, to cement these higher cosmic codes. So it's not enough to think, I think I'm going to donate to this person today. You have to do it. Not to me. I don't want to. If you want to do it to me, I'm not going to reject it. I'm saying in general, if you see a homeless person, you want to gift them, it's not enough to say, I thought about gifting a homeless person. Your guides inspired that thought, right? They inspired that thought because they wanted you to upgrade yourself onto a new pathway. And if you're willing to take the actionable steps to align your physical body together with your emotional body, together with your intuitive body, your light body, as mentioned earlier, then everything is congruent, everything is cohesive, and everything is coherent. That's when there's not going to be any more lags in your manifestation. The reason why you have lags, this is a whole other topic that we can broach another time. The reason why you have lags in your ability to manifest right now is because you have so much fragmentation within yourself. You've created all these different departments within your department store, and you're keeping them separate from each other. And when you keep them separate from each other, they all belong to different timelines, and those timelines aren't able to converge and merge. So, for instance, going back to my friend earlier, and we should probably end, right? But going back to my friend earlier, he wants love. That's a timeline, and there's a timeline that's possible for him. But then over here, he's being aggressive sexually with people and being unlike himself. So he's created these fragments, and they're not complementing each other. But for some reason, he's created a wall between them, and he doesn't want them to meet. That's fragmentation. That's why this timeline isn't able to arrive when he's over here, or this timeline over here isn't able to arrive when he's here. We have to dissolve all the walls. We have to become a unified being where there's no more walls and you're not hiding shit from people anymore, meaning you're not on the phone with a man who's married. That's shady. It's sneaky. It's less than divine. And the only reason it's less than divine is because divinity, ooh, I love how they're like topping it off. This is the cherry, my friends. The thing is, divinity wants to express itself fully, and it cannot do that if you have all these different departments. It can't, because you've created so much division within yourself that every time source energy tries to flow, it's like, I can only flow in this department. But I want this, but now I can't flow in here because you're still over here. So what you have to do is you have to dissolve all the walls. You have to remove all the veils that are causing that fragmentation to happen. And remember, fragmentation means that there are lower vibrational entities that don't want you to measure up to your divine potential. Those lower vibrational entities don't want you to succeed, because just like if you were rich right now and you had someone who's jealous of your wealth, they would hate on you. These lower vibrational energies, they want to keep you from your divinity so that they can feed on your less than divinity. They can feed on your less than divinity because they're not trying to be divine. They're really happy smoking crack. They're really happy treating people like crap. They're really happy objectifying women. That's how they get their energy. So our job is to strip off all the veils of forgetfulness, because if you really remembered your divine self, you wouldn't do that. If you really remembered your divine self, you would understand that you're here for a greater mission, to fulfill a galactic role where divinity can fully express through this human container. But it can't do so if you have all these walls of separation. Does that make sense? So your higher self has roles. Your galactic selves have roles. Every decision you make, ask yourself, is this my human self? Okay? Or do I have a higher responsibility? An example that's coming to me to mind now. Is it responsible of my friend to treat someone like that when my friend's higher self would want that person to never be traumatized, or would want that person to never be tattooed with a memory that is untasteful? So in that moment, you have a choice to either be the human who's just after that instant gratification, right, which dwells at floor 4, or you have the choice to be the higher self and be like, I have a responsibility to uphold, and I'm going to treat everyone around me like they're divine. I'm not going to objectify them. I'm not going to sexualize them. I'm not going to treat them in a way, whether they're conscious of it or not. For all I know, the person he did that to liked it, because people are asleep. That's why a lot of people like all of that stuff, because they're asleep. They're not plugged into their divinity. That's why. We have to strip away all the separation, that's keeping you from attaining your highest timeline. And that way you can start to manifest readily. You can manifest swiftly. So pay attention to everything that's slowing down the wheel of manifestation, anything that's less than divine, and stop doing it. It's that simple. You have to recall, you have to reclaim that you are divine. If you don't do that, you're going to be less than divine, and less than divine begets less than divine manifestations. So the choice is yours, my friend. We have 900 people in the house. I'm so happy. Thank you, everyone, for your donations. I really hope that you guys can subscribe, truly. And if you enjoyed my message, if you want me to be on YouTube more often, look, I flock to where there's interest. I've been doing Instagram a lot more lately because there's a lot of interest there and there's a lot of activity. If you guys want a lot of activity on YouTube, I will flock to you, but subscribe. Yes, I just follow the resonance of where I'm wanted. I'm like in a relationship. If you don't want me, bye. Have a good day. But if you want me, I'm going to be there. So if you want me to keep showing up for you guys, subscribe. And also, if you like my donation-based work, which is my favorite, please donate at feelgoodlife.com/donate. feelgoodlife.com/donate. I appreciate every single one of you. And I will attach a link below as well. And I will send you tons of love, tons of light, peppered with angelic blessings and light codes. And I hope that you dream well tonight. And I love you. Bye-bye.